Grootzundert, the Netherlands, March 30th, 1853. A child is born into a quiet parsonage, but as his parents, Theodorus and Anna, look down at him, they do not see a blank slate, they see a ghost. Exactly 1 year to the day before his birth, another boy was born in this same house. He was stillborn. His name was also Vincent van Gogh. Every Sunday, as young Vincent walked to church, he passed a small grave marked with his own name and his own birthday. This was his first mirror. He grew up as a replacement, a living monument to a shadow. It instilled in him a foundational fracture, the feeling that he was an intruder in his own life, a man who didn't quite belong to the world of the living. He was a silent, solemn child, seeking refuge in the damp woods and the lonely moors, wandering away from a home where he felt he was an unwanted second draft. Vincent did not start with a brush. He started with a Bible. He wanted to be a man of God, but his God was not the one found in the polished pews of the bourgeoisie. He sought a God of the dirt, the soot, and the suffering. In the late 1870s, he went to the Borinage, a coal mining district in Belgium. Here, he didn't just preach, he martyred himself. He gave away his clothes, slept on straw in a shack, and smeared his face with coal dust so he could look his congregation in the eye. He wanted to be a light in the abyss. But the church institutions found him grotesque. His intensity was excessive, his appearance undignified. They dismissed him. It was a crushing rejection. Vincent had tried to offer his soul to humanity through faith, and humanity had handed it back, unwanted. It was in this darkest hour of failure, penniless, wandering, and broken, that he picked up a pencil. He began to draw the miners, the weary women, the broken backs. He realized that if he could not save these people through prayer, he would immortalize them through line and shadow. His early art was not the explosion of color we know today. It was the color of the soil he walked upon. The paintings from his time in Nuenen, like the potato eaters, are thick, heavy, and brown. They smell of wood smoke and unwashed skin. Vincent wasn't interested in beauty. He was interested in truth. He saw a sacred dignity in the coarse hands of the peasants. To Vincent, these dark tones were the colors of honesty. But even then, he was a man apart. Only one person held the thread that kept him tethered to the world: his younger brother, Theo. Their relationship was a profound, agonizingly beautiful symbiosis. Theo, the successful art dealer in Paris, provided the money for the canvas, the paint, and the bread. Vincent provided the soul. Their letters are a map of a shared heart. Theo's love was unconditional, but for Vincent it was a source of immense guilt. He saw himself as a dog with dirty paws, leaning on a brother who deserved better. In 1888, seeking the high yellow note, Vincent fled the grey skies of Paris for Arles, in the south of France. Here the world cracked open. The sun became his deity. The palette shifted from the mud of the north to an electric vibrating yellow. He painted with a frantic, desperate speed, as if he knew his time was short. This was the era of the sunflowers. These weren't just flowers, they were icons of gratitude. He dreamed of a studio of the South, a community where artists could live and work in harmony. He prepared a yellow house, buying simple furniture, waiting for Paul Gauguin to arrive. He was a man dying of loneliness, trying to build a fortress of friendship. But the light of Arles was too bright. It began to burn him. The tension with Gauguin, the heat, and the mounting pressure inside his own skull led to the infamous collapse. The ear-cutting incident was not an act of madness for the sake of drama. It was a physical manifestation of a psychological scream. He was a man whose sensory input was too loud, whose heart was too big for the cage of his ribs. Saint-Rémy de Provence. The iron gates of the asylum at Saint-Paul-de-Moselle closed behind him. Vincent was now a voluntary prisoner of his own mind. Yet looking through the iron bars of his cell window, he saw the universe. This is where he painted the starry night. While the world slept, Vincent saw the air churning like a great sea. He saw the cypress trees as black flames reaching for the heavens. There is a devastating irony in this period. His mind was fracturing, yet his work was becoming more disciplined, more rhythmic, and more breathtakingly beautiful. He was finding a divine order in the middle of his internal chaos. He was painting his way through the storm, using his brush as an anchor to keep from drifting into the void. In his final months in Auvers-sur-Oise, the exhaustion took hold. The letters to Theo became shorter, heavier. He saw his brother starting a family, facing his own financial struggles, and the old guilt returned with a vengeance. Vincent felt he was a parasitic burden, a broken pitcher. On a July afternoon in 1890, he walked into a wheat field with a revolver. He didn't die instantly. He crawled back to his room and lingered for 2 days, smoking his pipe, with Theo by his side. His last words were a whisper. "The sadness will last forever." He died at 37. He had sold perhaps one painting in his lifetime. He died believing his life was a footnote of failure, a series of rejected loves and abandoned dreams. Vincent van Gogh was buried in a simple grave in Auvers. 6 months later, Theo followed him, dying of a broken heart. They lie side by side today, covered in a single blanket of ivy. Today, the very canvases Vincent couldn't trade for a hot meal are protected by bulletproof glass and valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. The world that couldn't find a place for the man now worships his vision. It is a staggering irony. We celebrate the genius while often forgetting the man who walked miles in the rain because he couldn't afford a carriage. Vincent's life poses a haunting question to all of us. What is success? Is it the gold we accumulate or the light we leave behind? Is it the approval of the institutions that rejected him? Or the fact that a century later, a lonely teenager looks at a painting of a starry night and feels for the first time understood? Vincent failed at being a preacher. He failed at being a salesman. He failed at being a husband. But in the wreckage of those failures, he succeeded in something much more difficult. He taught the world how to see.